Welcome back to McNulty's Book Corral. It's Halloween, and I'm going to recommend a couple of books to you for Halloween. My original intention was to recommend some horror films for this episode, but that will have to wait for another day. But I did pick really interesting books for you we're going to talk about. But before we get to that, I want to read to you a quote from none other than Arthur Conan Doyle, the creator of Sherlock Holmes. This is a very interesting quote from a book he published in 1907 called Through the Magic Door, which is a memoir of his bookshelves. Listen to this opening paragraph. I care not how humble your bookshelf may be, nor how lowly the room which it adorns. Close the door of that room behind you. Shut off with it all the cares of the outer world. Plunge back into the soothing company of the great dead. And then you are through the magic portal into that fair land whither worry and vexation can follow you no more. You have left all that is vulgar and all that is sordid behind you. There stand your noble, silent comrades, waiting in their ranks. Pass your eye down their files. Choose your man. And then you have but to hold up your hand to him, and away you go together into dreamland. Surely that would be something eerie without a line of books, were it not that familiarity has deadened our sense of it. Each is a mummified soul embalmed in cerecloth and natron of leather and printer's ink. Each cover of a true book enfolds the concentrated essence of a man. The personalities of the writers have faded into the thinnest shadows, as their bodies into impalpable dust. Yet here are their very spirits at your command. Arthur Conan Doyle, Through the Magic Door, 1907. And what an interesting way to express himself, to open up a long essay-turned book about his bookshelf, which, by the way, is a fascinating book to read. All right, so I picked 3 Penguin classics to recommend. Let's start out with Ray Russell. Haunted Castles, The Complete Gothic Stories. This is a slender volume, larger print. It has 3 novellas that are pretty well known, and the contents here are Sardonicus, Sagittarius, Sanguinarius, Comet Wine, The Runaway Lovers, The Vendetta, and The Cage. Sardonicus, I'm sure many of you film fans are familiar with the early 60s film version. I think it was 61. And, that film is a combination of The Picture of Dorian Gray and The Phantom of the Opera. The story, similar elements in the story. I think the story works much shorter, obviously. It works a little better than the film. The film does suffer from some creepy but also comedic makeup for Mr. Sardonicus. Pretty well known, kind of oddball stuff, but the movie is suspenseful and it works. I like the story. My favorite here, however, is the second story in this volume, which is Sagittarius. So quick spoiler alert here. I'm going to give a little bit away, not all of it. So this story, Sagittarius, proposes the idea that what if Mr. Hyde had been real, and Robert Louis Stevenson based him upon a real person, and he had a son. Mr. Hyde would sire the son. And what if 70 years later that son was still alive? What would he have done in those 70 years? And therein lies a really interesting plot twist at the end of the book. I think the plot twist is handled pretty well. It's muted somewhat because of the stylistic approach of the writing. Ray Russell is a modern writer, by the way, and this would have been late 50s, early 60s stuff. And it works well enough. It's my favorite story in the whole thing. Sardonicus is a good story. It's well known, but Sagittarius is pretty interesting, I thought. So this is a good little collection that you can read. It's not pulp. It sounds like pulp fiction, but he does not write in the style of a pulp fiction author. Not the ones in the late 30s into the 40s, anyways. A little more meticulous writing. Good material here. Again, Sagittarius is for me the highlight of this book. So then we have Clark Ashton Smith. These are Penguin Classics. This is great. And this is the Dark Eidolon and Other Fantasies. Eidolon is a Greek word meaning phantom or specter or something like that. This is a collection of his stories. Now, I have multiple collections of Clark Ashton Smith, who was part of the H.P. Lovecraft, the group. And wasn't he reportedly the only living author that met Lovecraft and Robert E. Howard? I'm not sure. There might be someone else. In any event, he was around in the 30s. Interesting guy. He still has a very strong following here. So the stories in here, there's quite a lot of prose stories. There's poetry. He wrote weird poetry in here. The stories are really short. He didn't write long novellas, and it's not that long of a book. So for me, the appeal of Clark Ashton Smith is the exotic, alien, supernatural worlds that are created by him. He's very good at that. His characterizations are not so hot. I think it's the mystique of these other worlds that he creates with made-up names, often made-up names derived from Greek or Latin that he used. Sometimes he used Greek, as I said, Eidolon is a Greek word. And he would mix it up and create these little, almost like a fragment, a vignette of some chilling idea that he had. I think they're worth your time, and he has a cult following. To this day, there are people that just revere Clark Ashton Smith. I like Clark Ashton Smith. I have several more volumes on the wall behind me. This is a pretty good introduction. If you've not gotten around to Clark Ashton Smith, you have a really good selection of his prose, short prose, and poetry. For example, this story here, The Devotee of Evil, is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, 11 and a half pages roughly. They're short, and some of them are even shorter than that. But that's okay. You don't need to be long-winded. As for me, Lovecraft was long-winded at times. He wrote some things that were much longer than they needed to be. And Clark Ashton Smith is in the same school as Lovecraft. And it's worth your time if you want a good, exotic, weird thrill. The Face by the River. You know what? I should probably read you the names of some of the stories. The Devotee of Evil, The Uncharted Isle, The Face by the River. The City of the Singing Flame is one that I really enjoyed. The Double Shadow, The Maze of the Enchanter, and so forth. Strange, weird little tales from Clark Ashton Smith. I would recommend get this Penguin Classics version and see if he appeals to you. By the way, he did the illustration on the cover of this. It's weird stuff. It has an introduction and notes by S.T. Joshi. I hope I pronounced his name right. He's a noted scholar of this type of literature. I know he has done a lot of work relating to Lovecraft. And interesting man himself. The introduction helps put it in perspective. Good collection, really good collection here from Clark Ashton Smith. Then we have my favorite, which is Arthur Machen or Macon. I recently watched a couple of interviews with Alan Moore, who was influenced by Arthur Machen, as he pronounces it, to write The Great Wen, which is going to be a 5-book series. And I covered The Great Wen previously, and I'm really excited that he's going to be doing more of those. I'm currently wading through Alan Moore's Jerusalem, by the way, and I'm loving it. It is different approach to things. Very long book. I bought the box set of 3 volumes of that, so there's your bonus book. It's in the other room, so I don't have it here. Anyways, Arthur, I pronounce it Machen because most people I talked to a linguist, and he said most people would pronounce it Machen. it's okay if you pronounce it Machen or Macon, I've been told. If you differ on that opinion, that's fine to put your polite comment down below. Okay, this is a good collection, but it's not definitive. So the white people in other weird stories. This features The Inmost Light, Novel of the Black Seal, Novel of the White Powder, The Red Hand, The White People, A Fragment of Life, The Bowman. The Bowman's a classic. Everyone is familiar with that, right? If you read horror fiction, you know The Bowman. And you probably are familiar with the Novel of the White Powder. The Soldier's Rest, The Great Return, Out of the Earth, and The Terror. So what's missing here is The Great God Pan and The Hill of Dreams. I have those in other editions and many other stories by him. So this is a good introduction to Macon, if you prefer that, Macon or Machen. And I'm really a fan of this author. These are all superb tales. So what I like here is you get that sense of the other world. You know, before there was even talk of a multi-dimensional, multiverse going on, you had authors like Arthur Machen and Clark Ashton Smith and H.P. Lovecraft and even Robert E. Howard to a point talking about this idea that there's a veil, for lack of a better term, a veil you can go through and access another world. The supernatural world that we have. And, you know, the elements here are of cosmicism, which is really the opposite of naturalism. In naturalism, the natural elements of the world exist on their own without supernatural elements, but with a cosmic theories, the supernatural elements are prevalent. And that's what you get with Clark Ashton Smith and H.P. Lovecraft and Arthur Machen. I think he's a marvelous writer. There are better definitive collections out there. Most, if not all of his work is in the public domain as far as I know. So why they didn't include more for this collection to really round it out, I don't know. Probably the publisher didn't want a big fat book. As it is, this sells for $18, which is too much for a paperback this size. But it's, you know what, it's worth it, I guess. If, you know, all books are expensive today. The Penguin Classics are a good series. I have numerous of these for other authors. So I've seen some book collectors out there on YouTube putting episodes together about their Penguin Classics collection. And that's a great thing to do. So, yeah, excellent stuff. And that is my brief Halloween episode. I hope you find this interesting. I hope you find some of these books. I know a lot of you are familiar with these authors already. But if you haven't been exposed to these authors, these are 3 books that I would recommend as an introduction to these authors through the Penguin Classics series. So happy Halloween to all of you out there. And as you can see, I've gone through the magic door into my den with my friends here. And I have some Halloween decorations up, which have been up for a couple of weeks, but I haven't filmed any episodes until now. I wish you well. Please stay well, stay happy, feed your beautiful minds. Read a book.